Thank you, Christina, and thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for coming here and taking the opportunity to listen to the Azure story, because this is all about the latest nickel discovery that we have here in Australia. The Andover nickel copper sulphide discovery is the first of what we believe is going to be many discoveries, many deposits to be discovered on our project. The usual disclaimer and statements which can be seen on our website. Corporately, we've got a market capitalisation of about $100 million at the moment, just a bit over. We've got about just under $15 million in the bank, so the company is in a very strong cash position. And you can see there the major shareholders and the members of our board. One of the most important things that we have to consider where we operate in the Pilbara region are the local traditional owners and their customs. We have made a very strong effort and a very successful effort so far in building a very positive and strong relationship with the local traditional owners. We acknowledge their ownership of the country. The fact that we are working on their country is very important, and we make sure that we do things in a proper way to ensure that there aren't any negative consequences for anything that we do. So it's so far, and it's been going forward really well, is a wonderful relationship that's being built there. To expand out from the local community relationship to the wider ESG component, this is something that Azure is taking very seriously. We want to be able to operate in this part of the world in a very sustainable and a very responsible way, and we make sure that we do things in a way that is in accordance with the expectations of our modern society that we all live in. So the main Andover Project is located in the western Pilbara part of Western Australia, and shown there on the map. It's very close to the town called Roebourne. Roebourne is a small town of about 500 people. This is the main road that's driving into the town of Roebourne. You can see it there in the foreground. There's a hill behind it. Just on the other side of the hill, about 3 kilometres to the south of that hill, is our project. So in terms of local communities and local infrastructure, very, very well served there. And if we expand out slightly to the wider area, our Andover project is about 70 square kilometres. It's shown there as that blue polygon on the right-hand side of the image. And it's being in the West Pilbara, there is a huge amount of infrastructure that's there. Within half an hour's drive of our project area, there's everything you could possibly want for an exploration or mining project. To the south of us, we've got Rio Tinto and their iron ore mines. To the north of us, offshore, you have all the oil and gas facilities that are out there as well. There's airports, there's ports, there's rail, there's power, there's water, there's everything you could possibly want, all within probably half an hour of our project area. So you couldn't get a better located mining project anywhere in Australia. So let's zoom in a little bit and have a look at the Andover deposit itself. So we've come from the bigger picture right into the main deposit that we've just announced about a month ago. So the Andover project, this is a nickel, copper and cobalt sulphide project. The mineralisation actually outcrops as a gossan, as a weathered and an oxidised representation of the sulphide mineralisation that occurs at surface, at depth. And that oxidation of the material, of the sulphide material, only occurs in the top 10 metres. Below that, from 10 to 20 metres down, you're into the fresh sulphide mineralisation. And that fresh sulphide mineralisation, which is enriched in nickel and copper, continues to at least 550 metres below surface and still remains open. And there's a cross-section there that you can see with the mineralisation still remaining open at depth. The image on the left-hand side, that's an aerial photograph that shows the drill holes that we drilled into it. There's just over 100 diamond drill holes have been put into the Andover deposit itself for about 42,000 metres of drilling. The mineralisation and the deposit is projected to surface as that red moustache type shape that you can see on there, and that mineralisation is very continuous over the 300 to 400 metres of strike length and at depth and in width as well. So the mineralisation has been drilled, as I said, with over 100 holes. We have now completed the initial maiden mineral resource for that. It's a very robust resource. Over 80% of the mineralisation is classified in the indicated category, and that's because the drill spacing has allowed us to define it to that nth degree. And within that, the main part of the mineralisation, the indicated section, the indicated component is shown there as red, and that mineralisation is 10 to 20 to sometimes 30 metres wide in true width, And the continuity of the grade and the continuity of the width within that deposit is excellent. And there's an opportunity here with additional drilling to make this bigger. But at this stage, we say that this is good enough for this deposit, and we are now moving on to some of the other deposits where we're drilling. So the resource that we announced a month ago is detailed here. It's about 4.5 million tonnes of nearly 1.5% nickel equivalent, for giving us a bit over 50,000 tonnes of contained nickel, 20-odd thousand tonnes of contained copper, plus some cobalt as well. And within that main indicated zone, there is a higher grade core with about 2 million tonnes of nearly 1.8% nickel equivalent there. Very robust resource. Where to from here? We have the, we're just taking a little bit of a step back now. We're looking at the bigger picture. The Andover deposit is located in the bottom left-hand corner of our project area. So as I mentioned earlier, it's about 70 square kilometres of land. It covers a lot of what is called the Andover mafic ultramafic intrusive complex, which is a very old batch of intrusive rocks within which you have these cross-cutting zones of a late intrusion which contains the nickel and the copper sulfide mineralisation. So all of the mineralisation that we've identified to date is hosted in that green corridor that you can see in the lower left-hand quadrant of the project area. And within that, we've drilled 4 different occurrences of nickel sulfide mineralisation, 2 of which are now deposits. That's Andover and Ridgeline. 2 others where we've drilled, we've put some holes in, we've had good success in all of those holes. They're called Seaview and Skyline. We've got other examples there of the likes of Woodbrook and Atrium, and both of those have got outcropping mineralisation at surface, and underneath that you have these electromagnetic conductors that represent bodies of conductive sulfides at depth. So it's quite likely that in that southwest quadrant we're going to have up to 6 deposits, 6 nickel deposits within that area. And that's why we're tackling this with an intensive drilling campaign that's been ongoing for 18 months now, and it's going to be ongoing for quite some time into the future. And then if you expand out from that southwest quadrant and you look into the rest of the tenement area, the rock type that hosts the mineralisation around Andover does extend to the northeast, and that's those dashed lines that you can see on there, and the red stars and the targets, which are labelled as VC 24, 30, 31, etc. Those are actual targets which we have yet to drill. We've identified them through the geophysics. We've identified them through the outcropping geology that we've got at surface, which contains anomalous nickel mineralisation. So potentially, this whole Andover project area itself has the potential to be a nickel camp or a nickel province in its own right. So it is in effect Australia's newest nickel district, containing at least one and probably multiple deposits. So one of the other areas that we're drilling now is it's called Ridgeline, and we've stepped about 200 to 400 metres to the west of the Andover deposit in that southwest quadrant, and Ridgeline is a blind deposit. It does not come to surface, but it's represented by, it was identified by non-outcropping EM or geophysical conductivity at depth. And we've drilled into those EM conductors, and we've been hitting very high grade zones of massive nickel sulfide mineralisation. And some of the drill holes there on the left-hand side, you can see 3 of the holes have been, which we announced recently, the results from that drilling. On the right-hand side, and this is really important, is a photograph of a couple of core trays that contain the massive sulfides. And on there, you can see the grades of the nickel. The first couple of metres we went into, it was just over 2%. And then from then on, we were doing half-metre samples because we wanted to see if there was any internal variability of the nickel mineralisation, and you can see it's 3.5 to up to nearly 5% nickel in those samples through there. So this is going from, this is the Ridgeline deposit, which we're currently doing a mineral resource drill out on at the moment, potentially has grades of that are much higher than what we've already seen in the Andover deposit, which is right next door. So this is the upside here. Massive nickel sulfides at Ridgeline equal nickel grades that are in that sort of 2 to 3% range on average. So what is the company? What's our company's strategy going forward? Well, it's a dual pathway. We want to run 2 pathways in parallel. We want to build up the exploration success, the identification and drilling out of deposits, the definition of more mineral resources. We're going to include and focus on doing a lot of drilling to up the mineral resource base of the project. Hence, we've got Andover deposit well defined already, Ridgeline deposit currently being drilled out, other exploration targets that will be drilled in the next few months and throughout the rest of this year. And then there's all the other targets that have been identified that need testing as well, which goes to our thesis that this is actually a nickel district in its own right with multiple deposits. But we don't want to miss the train that's in the station at the moment in terms of the high nickel prices that are out there. So we are developing this project as well as fast as we can. We have development studies underway. We've completed the first round of metallurgy last year. We've nearly completed the more advanced metallurgical test work that will be finished within the next few weeks. And things like geotechnical studies, mining studies, mineral processing and tailing storage facilities, all of those sorts of studies are in progress at the moment with the intention of completing a scoping study around about the end of this year based upon on the resources that we've identified so far and the further resources that we're going to get from the Ridgeline deposit. Part of that, as I mentioned earlier, was the metallurgy. The metallurgy of the Andover deposit itself is A-class. It crushes and grinds, no trouble at all. It floats off two beautiful clean concentrates. We get one concentrate is nickel and cobalt, the other concentrate is copper, getting very high recoveries in the high 80 to low 90% range recoveries, and we're also getting very high grades of those metals in those separate concentrates. And importantly, in addition to the high recoveries and the high grades that we're getting in the concentrates, there's very, very low levels of deleterious elements, which is important when you're actually looking to sell this product. And so everything we've seen so far in this project is positive. There are no red flags whatsoever that we've seen. So as far as the company is concerned and the project, we are married well together. It's the right sort of commodities to be in at this time. We control most of the Andover complex itself. And we've been able to build, because we picked up this project very early on, when sort of 2 years ago, we were able to not only get the good projects, we were able to get the good people before there became a skill shortage. Well, we were able to build the right sort of team of people that have not only got great successful exploration experience, but also people that have built mines as well. And as I said earlier, we are in a very strong position cash-wise. So the intention of the company here is to grow the Andover project into a major nickel and copper sulfide mining and processing operation. And we foresee that we'll have multiple deposits. At the moment, as I said, we've drilled 4 targets. We've hit good nickel in all 4 of those. There's potentially a lot more that we've yet to identify as well. So a multi-mine operation feeding into a central processing facility to be able to produce a nickel and cobalt concentrate and a copper concentrate, which would then obviously be very attractive to the various downstream processors who are looking for those products. So the project itself is in a great position. It's advancing really well. We've got a really steady news flow happening at the moment. There's no negativity that we've seen whatsoever. Everything is looking really positive for developing this project into a mining and processing operation. And the company itself is in a really strong position as well, financially and team-wise as well. So thank you very much for the opportunity to tell you the story, and look forward to keeping you updated.